Hello class, and welcome to lesson 1.3, properties of a function. So last video we took a look at describing how we take a relation and how it becomes a function. It needs to pass the vertical line test if you've got a graph, or each x has only one y. So let's take a look at the warm-ups here and apply that information towards it. So number 1 says determine if each is a linear function. So that's two parts, linear and function. Well, looking at A, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take my big marker going like I did before, my vertical line test marker. And as I go from left to right for A, this is in fact a function because it passes the vertical line test. But, ladies and gentlemen, is it linear? The question is no. This is curved. This is actually what we call a quadratic, folks, that graphs what's called a parabola. You will be very familiar with this by the end of the course, okay? That's coming up later in a couple of units. So quadratic formula, or sorry, quadratic function is what we're taking a look at. So to answer the question, yes, it is a function, but no, it is not linear, okay? So it is not a linear function. So no, because it is not linear. I'll put down here, yes, it is a function. The answer is no, because it's not a linear function. And why is it a function, guys? Because it passes the VLT. Okay, second example. Taking a look, as I go for B, there's your equation, y equals negative 2/3 x plus 4. I take a look at that, ladies and gentlemen, as I go from left to right. In fact, it does pass the vertical line test. The only things missing on my graph, guys, are arrows. So if you're drawing these in, can you put little arrows in for both my graphs? Thank you. And we need to say, yes, this is a linear function. And reasons why are 1, because the graph is a straight line and it's continuous. Okay, so that's what makes it a linear function. Okay, and it passes the VLT. So if you're asked for your reasons, you're going to say it's a continuous straight line. Oops, continuous straight line, and that it passes VLT. Great. Okay, moving on. Oh, sorry, I've got an announcement here.
The photographers would like any grade 12 student with their surname beginning with R to Z to go to that gym now.
All right, take a look at example 2, a different thing we're taking a look at, totally different, because it applies more to the lesson today. Okay, identify the x-intercept, the y-intercept, and the slope. Okay, so the x-intercept we find on the x-axis. So for A, you take a look here, we've got an x-intercept of -2. So x equals -2, and that's for the x-intercept. I'll just give it a little title. Okay. The y, or you could also give it an ordered pair, guys, so I'll back that up. You could also give it an ordered pair of -2 and 0. Okay. The y-intercept, ladies and gentlemen, is right here. So you could say for the y-intercept, you could give me two answers. You could say y equals 4, or you could give me the ordered pair 0 and 4, depending on how you like to describe those. All right. Now, the other thing we need to do is take a look at the slope. Remember, slope is m in the y equals mx plus b, and that represents, when you've got a graph, rise over the run. So let's take a look here what we're going to do. Well, first of all, you got to find 2 points on the line. Hey, there's 2 here. Remember that you drew a little right triangle to help you. So in this case, we have a rise. So as we go from left to right, how many are we rising? So the rise equals 4. We run from left to right, so we're going to run, that equals 2. So now we can go slope equals rise over run. Always tell me what formula you're using when you're doing slope, because there's 3 different ones. Okay, and the formula in this case, or the substitution, is 4 over 2. So m equals 2. So that's the slope value. All right, next one. Taking a look here, we'll get a little bit faster here. X-intercept is on the x-axis, so that is x equals 2, or you could give me 0.20. Okay. Y-intercept is on the y, so that's going to be for the y-intercept. You're going to say y equals 3, or you can give me the ordered pair 0, 3. Now to do your slope, connect 2 points by drawing a right triangle. Okay. And the rise in this case, be careful as we go from left to right. Are we rising or falling? We're actually falling. So it's going to be a negative value. So rise equals -3 because we're going down 3. Okay? And our run, we always run left to right. It will always be positive, and that will be 2. So to figure out your slope, again, tell me your formula. Rise over run. Or in this case, you could use y2 subtract y1 over x2 subtract x1. If you know how to do that, no problems. You sub that in. That's another correct way to do it. Okay, so rise is -3 over 2. So my slope equals -3 over 2. Okay. All right, so hopefully those are good warm-ups. Now let's take a look at the properties of a linear function. Linear, ladies and gentlemen, means a straight line when it's graph. And a function, as we learned last class, is that every input x has only one output. Okay? Properties of linear function. Same as linear relation that we did last year. We know that the equation is y equals mx plus b, represents a linear function where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. Hopefully you know that. And guys, this isn't a nice box for a bubble for a reason, because it's good things to memorize. Okay? The points on the graph of a linear function will form a straight line or lie on a straight line. Okay? And for consecutive values of x, the differences in the values of y, or the delta y, are constant. So other ways to say that is same first differences. Okay? And the next thing to realize is that your intercepts. To find the y-intercept, you let x equal 0 and then find y. To find the x-intercept, you sub in y equals 0 and find x. Good. All right, let's practice some of these. Okay, flipping the page. All right, working with linear functions. Example 1, determine the equation of the line. Well, first of all, what's our general equation? It's y equals mx plus b. And how do you know that? Because look at that, that's a straight line. Okay, and again, that straight line should have some arrows on it. I apologize. Okay, and when we try to find the equation, it says, what letters do we need to find? We need to find m, and we need to find b. Let's start with the easiest one. Let's start with the y-intercept b. Look on your graph, ladies and gentlemen. Where does it hit the y-axis? Right here. So that tells me that b equals 3. So I'm going to sub down b equals 3. Then I need to find the slope, which is m. So I'm going to find 2 points that are on the line, at the crosshairs, guys. Notice the crosshairs are at the grid, for example, here and here. If I were to choose a point like this, wouldn't be good because it's not on the crosshair, so I'm just going to erase it. Okay? And then from those 2 points, you draw a right triangle. And slope is rise over run. So we're going to have a rise here of 3. Because as you go from left to right, you go up 3. And run of 1. So to figure this out, slope equals, tell me your formula, rise over run. Sub in your values, it's 3 over 1. And please, folks, when you're giving me the, simplify it to just m equals 3. So we got m equals 3, we got b equals 3. So therefore, the equation that we need to do is y equals 3x plus 3. And that's the general equation of the line. All right. Example 2, graph y equals -3x plus 5 using the slope y-intercept method. I reviewed this in a previous video, but I'll go over it and the steps are here for what we need. Okay, so first of all, we notice that y equals -3x plus b, plus 5. It says number 1, plot the b or the y-intercept. Well, we know here b equals 5. So what do? On your graph, on the y-intercept, you find 5, draw a dot. Okay? Number 1, done. Okay? Change m into a fraction. Well, right now we know m equals -3. How do you change it into a fraction? Whenever you got a whole number, just put it over 1. Okay? And then it says from B, use the slope, rise and run to create a step pattern. So from here, instead of rising and running, rise over run, I'm going to fall over run because it's negative, right? So I'm going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3, over 1. Do the same pattern. Down 3, 1, 2, 3, over 1. Down 3, 1, 2, 3, over 1. And you keep doing this. You'll notice they're all on a straight line. Okay? All right. So after you've got your patterns done, and then it says join the dots with arrows and label the equation. So let's do that. Just give me 1 second. It takes me a little longer to do this because I need to do that. I need to get arrows. Okay, and please use your ruler, guys. Okay, and then I've got to label my equation. So I need to write on the equation y equals -3x plus 5. So that's expressing that linear function 2 different ways. You've got the equation, and now we've created a graph. Okay? All right. Next example, example 3. Find the x and y intercepts for each of the following. Okay? We touched on this in grade 9, but not as much, so we'll do it as a review. Okay, as it said in our properties, to find the x-intercept, you let y equal 0. So I'm going to rewrite this equation in A. Wherever I see a y, I'm going to put a 0. So it's going to be 3x plus 2 times 0 equals 12. 0 times anything, ladies and gentlemen, is 0. So we end up with 3x equals 12. How do we get x by itself, guys? You divide both sides by 3. So x equals 4, that's your x-intercept. So therefore your ordered pair will be 4 and 0 if they asked you to graph it. That's how you would do that. Let's try the other one. Let's try the y-intercept. To do the y-intercept, you're going to let x equal 0. Okay? So wherever we see an x, we put a 0. So 3 times 0 plus 2y equals 12. And again, folks, 0 times anything is 0. So we're left with 2y equals 12. To isolate y, divide both sides by the numerical coefficient, which in this case is 2, and we end up with y equals 6. And our ordered pair, and be careful when you say this one, for any y-intercept, the x has to be 0, and 6 is for y. Okay? All right, so that's A done. Now B, we're given a table of values. Okay, so as long as you've got a 0 in either the x or the y, you're set. So let's circle this first one here, 0 and -2. So the y-intercept is whenever x equals 0, so we already have it here. So it's going to be a y-intercept of the ordered pair 0 or -2. Or you can say y equals -2. Okay? Likewise, if we find where y equals 0, this one, okay, we know that's the x-intercept. So the x-intercept occurs at 2 and 0, or you can say x equals 2. Good. All right. One more example for us, guys, and then we'll get to the assigned work. Example 4. A plane flies towards Toronto at a constant rate as shown. You've got a table of values here, okay? Calculate the equation. Oh, well, first of all, whenever you're given a table of values, in order to assess it, we've got to make sure that it's linear, so we know what equation to do. So we'll do the first differences. So we'll put this delta y, we'll let this be y, and we'll let this be x, and we'll do change in x. Change in x is easy. We can do that very visually, which is 1. Okay, now change in y, you might need to use your calculator here. Okay, be careful. It's like, for example, 200 subtract 450. So that's going to give you -250. -250. -250. -250. Okay. Just remember, it's the distance away from Toronto. Okay. All right, so to calculate the equation, remember we need y equals mx plus b. So we need to find m and b. The easiest one to take a look at is b, which is your y-intercept. That occurs where x equals 0. So we know b equals 1200. Please don't put a comma in there. That's what the program does, and I can't get away from it. Okay? In Canada, we don't use commas. Okay? All right, now we go to find the slope. The slope equals change in y over change in x. So my change in y is negative 250 over 1, which is your hours, which is 1. So m equals negative 250. So if we want to do the equation, we can then say y equals the rate, which is negative 250 x plus 1200. Okay? What does the slope represent? So in our case, what does the negative 250 represent? Well, that represents how fast you're going. So we're going to break it down to two parts. I'm going to deal with the sign in a second, but let's just deal with the numerical value, which is 250. So the 250 is the kilometers per hour, okay, is the speed that the plane is going at, okay? Or the plane, okay? All right. The negative, I'll put down here. That just refers to the direction. So that means we're just going towards it, okay? We're going towards it, which means it's getting negative because we're getting less and less distance away. We're getting closer to Toronto, right? So that deals with direction, okay? So it's 250 kilometers per hour towards Toronto. Okay. Okay. What does the y-intercept represent? So what does the 1200 represent, guys? Okay. That's how many kilometers. How many kilometers we initially started away from Toronto. So that is the initial distance away from Toronto. Awesome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's your homework. Got two different pages here. So page 26, numbers 1 to 4, and page 29, I think it's just a reading activity, or it's just one inquiry there. All right. Have a great day, folks. And again, come see me if you need some help. Bye.